Well, you guys made me do it. Made me shower, get presentable, actually get out and about and talk to people outside of the phone here as we have been working the phones, staying locked in during this transfer portal cycle. But appreciate everyone jumping in these crazy last 72 hours as we welcome you into a live edition of Kolby's Corner, coming to you here live from Norfolk, Virginia on January 3rd, year of our Lord 2026. First Kolby's Corner of the new year. We've been running low on sleep. We've been sick, but we've got a ton of updates tonight that we'll touch on in the show. First show of the new year. All things transfer portal, buzz, intel, visits are set up, crystal balls, all of it and more. It's very early, and there's going to be a ton more to come. So make sure to stay locked into the show. And we'll also touch on some staff nuggets. I know we've been touching on that, but still some notes surrounding the staff that we will make sure to touch on, and a whole ton of Q&A, because as we've been working all day, the phones and the message boards and over on vtscoop.com haven't had a ton of time for prep. And I know there's a ton of questions. See the live chat lighting up. Make sure to get in the live chat on YouTube or X. Drop any questions. We'll touch on all those at the end. And yeah, appreciate all the support, but we'll get right into it. But before we do that, I always do it, and I make sure, and I want to make sure to say thank you guys so much for all the support. It's been amazing getting this going. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. The outpouring has been really crazy. We got the phone up, so any updates will be ready, but the outpouring has been absolutely crazy getting this going, especially during the transfer portal. So make sure to subscribe. We will have a ton of updates in the coming days as we keep it going. So subscribe to the channel, follow, share the show with a friend, because we're going to keep it rolling. And the best place, before midnight tonight, vtscoop.com running 50% off promo. So all those scoops and insights, 50% off vtscoop.com. Okay, let's jump right into it. Hopefully no technical difficulties, and let's get into it. The transfer portal. What a wild first couple of days it's been. Like I said, we tried to, I guess, set the stage for how crazy it was going to be for Virginia Tech and James Franklin, as he's obviously rounded out this staff, but it has been everything and more. I mean, across the nation, as you've seen, all-time record high entrance. I think it's close to 4,500 now. Division I players across the FBS and FCS levels, or over 4,000 players have entered the transfer portal, which is just an insane amount of number to comb through. Cooper Patagna, a ton of guys have done a really great job tagging, IDing, and ranking a lot of these guys. But we'll get into it specifically and what it means for Virginia Tech. So they're on, the days are all running together, whatever, January 2nd, yesterday, Friday, pretty early there in the morning, I went and put in a crystal ball pick for the number one tight end in the portal, Luke Reynolds, coming from Penn State. This is one that we've been talking about on this show for a while. If you've been subscribed, if you've been tapped in, as a certain name to watch. And once he cleared that transfer process, pretty quickly expected Virginia Tech to get in the mix. I do expect Virginia Tech to land the commitment of the number one transfer portal tight end, Luke Reynolds, obviously the former five-star recruit coming out of high school, very highly rated. Now had close to, I think, 250 yards this season, 26 catches. So maybe hasn't met that production yet at the collegiate level, but has a great long-standing relationship with the new offensive coordinator and tight ends coach, Ty Howe. Certainly one to watch there. It sounds like he's already been on campus. Could see that one being shut down semi-soon. Another one to watch from Princeton, West Virginia originally. Transferred defensive lineman. I know a lot of services have him listed as an edge. He sounds like he'll project as a defensive lineman on the interior. Daniel Jennings was a number one player in West Virginia a cycle ago. Spent a year up there at Penn State developing. He was on campus today in Blacksburg. That's another one, have a crystal ball in. I could see Virginia Tech shutting that one down semi-soon. And I think you'll see that. If some of these Penn State guys get on campus, I think you'll see that those sort of shut down relatively quickly. So definitely another one to watch at a position of need. We've talked about that quarterback and specifically defensive line are going to be those top spots to keep an eye on. Edge rusher, offensive line as well. But another one. So these are just the two guys I've put crystal ball picks in. And then one more today, Matt Henderson. So Matt Henderson officially cleared the transfer process today. Another tight end coming down from Penn State, originally from Powhatan High School in Virginia. He's has 4 years of eligibility, was a class of 25 guy. So he redshirted, still has 4 years of eligibility. entered the portal today, and he was on campus today as well. So another one I expect Virginia Tech to get done. But obviously Ty Howell's track record of coaching tight ends to the NFL ranks. You don't have to look back too far a couple seasons ago and what he was able to do with Tyler Warren, his ability to recruit that position. Pretty big stuff as well. If you're over on btscoop.com, dropped a note today expecting Jarickis Hairston, the tight end, to also return to that tight end room. So some numbers starting to shape out there in the tight end room. It's been a whirlwind, like I said. If we have questions, jump in the live chat. We'll touch on all that. But some guys I feel very good about with where Virginia Tech sits. If you're just joining us, make sure to subscribe to the show, like the video, share the show with a friend. We're going to be a little disjointed, but we're going to try and dump as much intel as quickly as we can in this show and then get to everyone's question. At the quarterback position next, obviously the largest point of emphasis for Virginia Tech in the transfer portal, really the hinge point for Virginia Tech going into the 26th season is going to be at the quarterback position. I've been pretty outspoken on this show talking about Virginia Tech's linkage to quarterback Beau Pribula. He will take visits to Virginia Tech as well as Georgia Tech, and Stanford is in the mix. Another quarterback that we've talked about on here a little bit, but I maybe has even supplanted Pribula in that catbird seat leader is Ethan Grunkmeyer, the Penn State transfer quarterback that's been heavily linked to Virginia Tech. I think Virginia Tech sits in a very good spot for him with some of the news of Rocco Becht and some of those dominoes falling. Once he hit the portal, Virginia Tech, there will be other suitors, and it's not a shoo-in, but he's very highly rated in the transfer portal. And someone I think Virginia Tech sits in a very good spot with. They will get him on campus, and someone I think they can move relatively quickly with. Now, that's not to diminish Beau Pribula. There is a world where I think Virginia Tech could land Ethan Grunkmeyer and Beau Pribula, but it sounds like Virginia Tech has gotten a lot more murky on the side of Beau Pribula in the recent hours, days, seconds. This is a very evolving, changing world, the transfer portal. It sounds like that has gotten a little bit more murky on where he stands with Virginia Tech. That Georgia Tech visit is very real. The Stanford interest is very real. A lot to play out there with Pribula as to what was sort of expected or at least perceived on this show even just a week ago. So I would definitely keep an eye on Ethan Grunkmeyer. We'll double check his ranking in the transfer portal rankings per 24/7 Sports. I believe he is he comes up with a 93 grade and is currently the number 11 transfer portal quarterback in the rankings, coming in just behind Austin Simmons from Ole Miss and a couple spots ahead of Beau Pribula. So I know a lot of people were first exposure point to Ethan Grunkmeyer in the Pinstripe Bowl a couple weeks ago. Was able to go see him live. I was actually in State College for that Indiana game this year where he really threw the ball around the yard against, I think, pretty clearly the most dominant team in college football this year and a very good defense. So a lot to like there with 3 years of eligibility. Those are two names to definitely still watch, Ethan Grunkmeyer and Beau Pribula, as we've touched on. Another name that we were able to confirm, sounds like he was going to campus this afternoon, got there, Bryce Baker, former top 247 quarterback from North Carolina, spent this year with the Tar Heels, early enrolled, fell down the depth chart a little bit, fell behind Norfolk, Virginia quarterback Torrey Newkirk, and sounds like he hit the portal. Sounds like he visited Virginia Tech today and tomorrow. He's another guy who was obviously very highly rated. Didn't see his opportunity come to fruition this year, but someone to keep an eye on. He had, I believe, Penn State as his second school coming out of high school, has a relationship with quarterbacks coach Danny O'Brien as well as James Franklin. Also had Virginia Tech higher on his list coming out of high school. So another name to watch there. One that we've talked about a little bit as well, Luke Kromenhoek at Mississippi State, by also way of Florida State 2 seasons ago. I know they had the Mayo Bowl last night. He was playing in that game. There's been some linkage to Virginia Tech. Haven't been able to get a solid read with him playing in that bowl game last night. As details become available, vtscoop.com. Make sure you're following on all the socials. Is going to be very important right there on X at Kolby_Crawford and on vtscoop.com for all the updates. We'll be going live on here a ton, so make sure to subscribe, share the show with a friend, and we'll get into all the questions you have. But those are going to be really great places as this portal palooza continues. Those are some targets I feel really good about for Virginia Tech and their standing. A little look at the quarterback position with Ethan Grunkmeyer, definitely trending with Virginia Tech. Maybe Pribula fading a little bit, but definitely still being very in that mix. When I say that, I want to make sure it's not Virginia Tech tailing off, as they are still probably the most dominant team in that recruitment. It's just definitely got a lot murky in the last couple of days, I would say. So certainly some names to watch there, as well as potentially Elon, transfer quarterback, Landon Clark could maybe be something there. That still definitely has some stuff to play out. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video. We will jump into a lot more of the portal, any questions, and then also some staff nuggets. Appreciate all the support. It means the world. Some other visits that have been going on. Bill Davis, Louisiana, Raging Cajuns running back. Pretty productive runner, led the Cajuns in rushing in 2024 and 2025. I believe 225 pounds, has shown some ability to catch the football and in pass pro. Just cutting on the film, look like plus pass pro attributes. I think 22 catches in his career. And Virginia Tech, it looks like they are going to go out and try and target a running back and get a target through the transfer portal. Early on, Jules Goff at Pittsburgh and Javin Gordon at Tulane, two other guys that we've been monitoring, but they bring Bill Davis on campus first from Louisiana. Definitely a name to watch. If Norville McKenzie, new running back coach, wants to get that one done, I could see that one moving relatively quickly. But they have him on campus today. I just saw someone jump in the chat. Any O-lineman on the horizon, I would say Justin Bell from Michigan State has a relationship with Matt Moore coming out of high school. So he's at Michigan State, but Matt Moore offered him when he was at West Virginia. They have a connection there, and they hosted him on campus today. So definitely one to keep an eye on there. That's another one that I could see moving relatively quickly if they want to get that one done. A couple other connections, checking the phone as we continue to get texts and updates here throughout the show. A couple other to keep an eye on. The Texas A&M connection with defensive line coach Sean Spencer. Solomon Williams, edge rusher from Texas A&M, will be on campus Monday. He will be visiting Vanderbilt tomorrow. Vanderbilt is pretty well established there at the edge position. So I definitely like where Virginia Tech sits, at least currently, for Solomon Williams. Both reserve guys, has not seen that much time yet at that edge position. But definitely one to keep an eye on. I believe a former top 247 or a former 4-star coming out of high school. So certainly one to keep an eye on there, Solomon Williams. And then also Rylan Kennedy has not set a visit with Virginia Tech, but there has been interest. So a couple names to watch certainly there. I know we're just listing names now, but it's good to try and keep track of it for everyone. So now Isaiah Dawson, Richmond wide receiver, will be visiting Richmond wide receiver Isaiah Dawson will be visiting Virginia Tech on January 9th. And I think a big thing to watch with these visits is the dates. As some of these dates get later and later on, visits could get shifted or even canceled. So definitely something to watch there. Cameron Morgan, outside linebacker, edge rusher from Baylor, is set to visit January 7th. He'll have some big competition, was a former 4-star guy as well. A couple wide receivers to keep an eye on. Corey Scott from West Florida will be visiting Sunday. He's got some other big suitors, and Jeremy Scott from South Alabama, a couple names to watch. Beef, I see a lot of questions about the offensive line. Ori Williams from LSU will visit Virginia Tech. Still working on figuring out that date, but he'll have some other larger suitors as well, looking at him. So that'll certainly be one to keep an eye on, as Virginia Tech is going to have to build out the trenches. A name that I dropped over on VTScoop.com today, Jeff Exenor Jr., top 247 wide receiver from a cycle ago. Virginia Tech was very heavily involved coming out of, I believe, McDonough High School. That will be another one to certainly watch. Has a connection with Fontel Mines, Ty Howell, to see how they want to move there. Not sure how much other interest there will be. They're definitely going to go get a specialist at the punter position, working on back channeling some of those names. Paul and Benga, I believe, from LSU could also be in the mix. I see someone in the chat saying, is Chaplin in the mix? Do not see them going to pursue Xavier Chaplin. Landon Ellis from, I believe, LSU is a name that I could see visiting. Was at Richmond and Richmond, and then JMU cornerback, who I think a lot of people got exposed to there in the college football playoff, is a name that I could see visit as they attack there. Owen Waffle Michigan recruit, and then went to Penn State. That's another guy I think they could get on campus. And those Penn State guys, if they get them to campus, I could see shutting down relatively quickly. So another guy in the portal. And then Christian Harrison, Cincinnati DB, I could see them attack. Another name that just jumped to mind, and I see in the chat, Chris Jones, former, I believe, 5-star linebacker coming out of Stafford, Virginia, or high 4-star, top 247 linebacker from Fairfax, Virginia. Chris Jones, early schools to watch, hasn't set any visits, but Virginia Tech, UVA are a couple schools to watch there. Oklahoma State, sounds like Tulsa, Colorado State, a couple of those other names, but obviously was at Georgia with Chris Cole, those top-of-the-class guys, more outside linebacker, maybe stand-up edge type, but definitely a name to watch for Virginia Tech. As they look at previous high school relationships, and Virginia guys will definitely be big points of emphasis for the staff as they go through the transfer portal. Those are some of those early names. Like I said, it's a consistent revolving door. We're going to be going live a lot because we'll say one thing today and it can change the next. So it'll just be very, very tumultuous, but we'll try and keep track of all of it. Javian Hilson, another guy, Kamari Burns, potentially defensive lineman, could be making the trip. The Cincinnati defensive lineman, he will be visiting. That's another one. Chimdia Nwewu, I believe, from Northwestern, another name to watch. Justin Eaglin, another name we're monitoring. So I know we sort of dumped there. I'll take the time to get touch on some staff notes, and we'll get into the comments. But that pretty much wraps it up on the initial transfer portal dump. If you have questions specific, we will dump and get all the questions answered. But just want to tie a bow on a couple staff notes. The other night, I believe last night, dropped a note that Virginia Tech hired senior offensive analyst Warren Ruggiero, not exactly sure how you pronounce it, was an offensive analyst last year at Iowa for the last year, but the 11 seasons prior to that was the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Wake Forest, sort of the mastermind behind the slow mesh with Dave Clawson, all those quarterbacks, Sam Hartman, the development that he was able to do brings a wealth of offensive experience to obviously an inexperienced offensive play caller in Ty Howe. So, supplanting him with Danny Rocco and a mind like Warren Ruggiero, that hire is really, really big, I think, for Virginia Tech. So drop that over on the VT Scoop website yesterday, breaking that news, bringing in another senior offensive analyst. Also, obviously, that last position that you're looking at, safeties and co-DC, continuing to hear a lot of noise around Lamar Morgan, the former Michigan defensive back coach. Could see that moving relatively quickly once Anthony Poindexter went to Tennessee. That's another name heavily linked to Virginia Tech, Lamar Morgan. And if that were to be the case, there are quite a few Virginia prospects and other Michigan prospects that have relationships with James Franklin or Penn State previously. That would certainly be names to watch. So that is definitely something to watch, as that is kind of the final piece of the staff. I saw another note in the chat about J.C. Price, the former defensive line coach. Sounds like he might land on his feet off the field in an off-field staff role. So those are some notes on that. Just monologue for roughly 20 minutes. Just dumped a lot of names, but I know there's a ton of questions in the live chat. Keep them coming. We will try to answer all the questions as they come. Make sure to subscribe, comment, share the show with a friend. It's been too long. I know we went live, I believe, Monday, and we didn't go Wednesday because of New Year's Eve. So I know there's a lot of questions. I'll try to touch on them all. But that was a ton of intel. So subscribe to the show, like the video, and let's get into some of these questions. Zach Harmon, as I just touched on there with Lamar Morgan, any word on Andre Clark Jr. trying to get out of signing with Michigan? This sounds like one that he will probably get released from his letter of intent to Michigan. Now, there's still definitely a lot of legwork. If that parlays immediately to Virginia Tech has made it very interesting down the stretch, going to Hermitage High School there in Richmond. Fontel Mines has done a really great job there, as well with other people, and his relationship with Lamar Morgan, if that were to come to fruition, would be really big. So Virginia Tech might not be done there yet in the 2026 class. So definitely a name to watch there. Andre Clark, Hermitage, Richmond, Virginia. That's one I could see breaking that letter of intent. Question here from Clayton Gilmore. Who do you believe is the best get out of the three quarterbacks This is tough. Maybe Bo Perbula is he's probably seen the most college football at this point, but Ethan Grunkmeyer out of these three guys probably has the highest ceiling. Bryce Baker is a year behind Grunkmeyer and hasn't seen any live reps. Grunkmeyer, the back half of this year, obviously saw a lot of ball. Bo Perbula started quite a bit from Missouri, started a game last year for Penn State. So I think Grunkmeyer probably has the highest ceiling for sure. But Perbula is probably, what you're going to get most so far. But I mean, a lot of them, they all sort of had that boomer bust potential. Clayton, yeah, just talked about that just briefly with JC. Most likely going to land on his feet in an off the field role. Obviously, was a former defensive line coach, former defensive lineman at Virginia Tech, but it sounds like he will be staying on in Blacksburg. And another question here from Clayton. The retention notes today: wide receiver Aiden Green's going to stick it out in Virginia at Virginia Tech for the 2026 season, as well as I mentioned Jarickis Harrison 2026. Brody Adams, another one who didn't have a post but will be on for 2026. So you're starting to see some of that roster round out. A big name to that is Kamari Copeland. I think Virginia Tech, they've done a lot to try and position themselves to keep the third-team All-ACC defensive tackle, but I think he's definitely receiving some of that NFL feedback. And when you know the measurables that he can test at, it makes scouts' eyes kind of light up a little bit. So that'll be one to watch. And even in the college game, he's going to have a ton of suitors in this transfer portal. But I think Virginia Tech has positioned themselves well, certainly. And Sean Spencer, the new defensive line coach, helps with that for sure. Got a good question here from Chad Gilmore, 8892. How quickly does the transfer quarterback situation shake out? It seems the faster Virginia Tech gets their quarterbacks, the rest of the offense could fall into place. Certainly, like the NFL draft, like anything, the quarterbacks, like high school recruiting, the quarterbacks are going to go first and dictates the board. And I foresee that completely with Virginia Tech. Getting texts right now, trying to confirm different guys being on campus and such. I think Virginia Tech locks in their quarterback prospects relatively soon. I think definitely keep eyes on those names. Ethan Grunkmeyer, Bo Perbula, that's gotten a little murky in the last couple of days. Bryce Baker being on campus, and maybe a surprise name. But I think they will very heavily lock in one of their top transfer target quarterback names here relatively soon and then move from there, because that's a really massive domino when you talk about skill guys, offensive linemen. It all sort of stems from the quarterback position. So they will move very rapidly there. Got Max Holcomb talking about, think Ori Williams, the LSU transfer defensive lineman, ending up at Virginia Tech. They're going to have some stiff competition, certainly. Pulling up who else he has his visits to. Visits with Auburn, Kentucky, and UCLA. Kentucky's been very aggressive in this transfer portal cycle with their new coach, Will Stein. Auburn rebuilding under, obviously, Alex Galesh down there. And the last school, UCLA, Bob Chesney. I think there's a good chance, but there's a lot to play out. They haven't got a really good feel there. At this moment, probably would say there's on the offensive line route, Justin Bell from Michigan State. That's probably one I feel more confident in. Now they're going to take quite a few offensive linemen from the transfer portal. And we are only 2 days in, but relatively soon. I think he's a top 20 tackle so far in the portal. So one to watch, but haven't got a great feel there. Clayton, with Henderson and Reynolds being sought after, does that impact Gosnell? Obviously talking about with Jarickis Harrison, with Luke Reynolds, with Matt Henderson, all likely on their way to Virginia Tech. There's been a lot made of Benji Gosnell and his future at Virginia Tech. I think Benji would tell you, if you had him on the program or wherever, that he absolutely loves Virginia Tech, has been about the program, was committed to Ohio State in high school, flipped to Virginia Tech, captain of the school, of the team, and has, I think, embodied what a lot of the program was definitely missing, even in a very tough year when it would have been very easy to throw in the towel, especially in an offense that 100% wasn't catered to the tight end position. He's being very heavily pursued by some very big players in college football. Obviously, he's not in the transfer portal, but we all know tampering doesn't exist. There's a school in Bloomington that is, sounds like very much so, after his talents. Couple other big hitters with very, very big money on the table. So some teams to watch. Virginia Tech is certainly not out of it, but definitely still something to play out there in the tight ends room. C. Jackson 0822 safeties coach update. I know we just dumped a lot there in the beginning. If you're just joining us, Lamar Morgan from Michigan is one where there's a lot of smoke around. Was the defensive backs coach there. Obviously, they're still looking to fill that safeties coach position. Definitely one to watch. We've talked about him a little bit on the program before, but it looks like it's trending that way for Virginia Tech to round out James Franklin's initial staff. Lamar Morgan not being retained up there at Michigan under new head coach Kyle Whittingham would be one to watch for Virginia Tech. Got some offhand comments talking about will Grunk be a Hokie. At this point in time, I would expect Ethan Grunkmeyer to likely end up at Virginia Tech and could see that moving relatively quickly. The connection's pretty clear, but just in talking to different people, I could see that one wrapping up relatively quickly. Excuse me. Yeah, Joey, this is a good question. In your opinion, who will be brought in to help Aiden Green at wide receiver? They've looked at guys. We talked about Corey Scott from West Florida, Jeremy Scott, South Alabama. They just offered Tony Davis, I believe, from it was an odd school down there in Texas, very small school, I believe FCS, maybe even D2. They have Isaiah Dawson coming in from Richmond. I think some of these other guys on the team you're going to have to look to. Chance Wiggins, Brody Adams, both these guys coming up. They got to take a step this year. They will go through the portal and find a couple playmakers at wide receiver, but you need some of those guys you've recruited to really take that step this year to help Aiden Green. You need some playmakers on the outside to be difference makers because they've got some guys there at tailback. They're going to go get some more tailbacks, but certainly they will go find some guys. Jeff Exenor maybe. That he's probably a year away or so from having instant impact. Haven't heard really definitively outside of obviously the tight end position at pass catchers that are heavily linked to Virginia Tech at this time. Got Justin Aros to get 4115, I think. What's up, Kolby? Do you think we get more aggressive? I've seen some of this, and there might be other comments about it, more aggressive, or what did you expect in the portal? You're 2 days in. I know a lot of these conversations have happened well before the transfer portal opening about who's entering, where you're visiting. A lot of these things have been premeditated, yes, but I think this is about what was expected for Virginia Tech. A lot of these visits, a lot of these commitments, they're not going to be publicized at all, and they're just going to sort of jump out there. Every staff across the country is working extremely hard to get these guys on campus, organize schedules, and get them. I think they're being hyper aggressive in getting guys on campus, and I think you'll start to see, if you're talking about announcement wise, start to stream out here relatively soon. Clayton Gilmore talking about Jaden Blair from Mount Tabor down in Winston-Salem. I know the basketball team lost today, obviously alma mater and former teammate of Shamari Snook-Peterkin down there at Mount Tabor. Went to Notre Dame this year, redshirted and entered the transfer portal. Very, very crowded safety room. Jaden Blair will be visiting Missouri. Was pretty early linked to Virginia Tech, but if he goes on that Missouri visit, could see that being shut down relatively soon. If Drinkowitz does that, obviously they can't sign on campus, as others have mentioned, but could see that one being shut down, but could see Virginia Tech also getting in the mix because there is that connection with the staff, was very close with the Penn State coaching staff, but locking in that Missouri visit, I think Jaden Blair is one to watch there. Joey Anderson, do you see a future for Jarickis Harrison? Seems like he was trending to a very high ceiling. Yeah, and like I touched on, he will be returning for the 26th season. And the tight ends are going to be heavily utilized in this offense. You can tell by the personnel usage, by just previous experience with the staffing you've brought in. The tight end will be an emphasis, so I think they're going to have a lot of opportunities, and especially compared to this year, a ton more opportunities at that tight end position. Miles Johnson, I know, lost in the fold of the day. There's a ton of news today. The portal dominated it, so wanted to touch on all that in the intro. But yes, 2025 dual sport athlete Micah Matthews, a former top 55 ranked prospect per perfect game in baseball, as well as a former top 247, top 5 player in Virginia before the ending rankings, where I believe he ended up at 88 3-star and around top 15 in Virginia. Prospect in football from Turner Ashby there in Bridgewater, Virginia. Entered the transfer portal today. It's just that's one that'll definitely go down in the Brent Pry tenure of a little bit of a head scratcher, a little bit unfortunate for him to never see time on the field for football or baseball. Pretty heavy compensation package there. Had very big suitors down the stretch. Clemson almost flipped him late. I mean, came in very aggressive to Virginia Tech, and it just never came to fruition. Redshirted and is off for greener pastures. So not a massive loss, as he was always probably likely to shape up into that tweener. I mean, awesome player, awesome family. I think he'll have a ton of success wherever he lands. Obviously a 5-tool guy in baseball, just needs to put it together there and has the frame to do it in football. It's just very hard to do that split. Just fell behind in the receiver room specifically, but awesome player. Unfortunate to not see it work out at Virginia Tech. Chad Gilmore, does Virginia Tech have a whole new starting offensive line in 2026? If I were to answer this, I would say no, because Kyle Altuner will certainly be that starting center. I think you saw some positive flashes from Aiden Lynch at tackle. Does he make that next step? Not sure. Does Lath Gannum stick there at guard? They've obviously retained Brody Meadows. Do they like him at guard? Does Johnny Garrett hold down a tackle spot? They're going to bring in a ton of competition from the portal. Every spot is going to be up for grabs. So I don't think it's going to be a full new starting offensive line, because I think you can feel pretty certain Kyle Altuner will hold down the center spot, but there's going to be quite a bit of overturn on the offensive line for sure. Denzel Jones, seeing a lot of different same for possible quarterbacks. What is the most likely candidate? Today, I would say Ethan Grunkmeyer. Obviously, a week ago, I was probably more heavily leaning Beau Pribula. A couple changes there in the last few days, last hours. But yeah, that's kind of where it's at right now, I would say. Andrew, and like I said, I probably should have done a better disclaimer if I'd laid out this show prep and I laid all these nice talking points out. But I see a lot of stuff on social media. I'm kind of disappointed. My expectations were this. What did you expect the class to look like? This is kind of exactly what I expected. It wasn't going to be the portal was going to open. You're going to see 20 commitments or this. And I know, like, the guys announcing it's 3 years, 4 years, 2 years of eligibility left. There's going to be a ton of motion behind the scenes. They're going to bring in guys who will play a lot next year. Are there going to be a lot of one-year mercenaries? Probably not as much, but they're going to bring guys that add value, that they think fit. And it is also January 3rd. Guys can announce their intentions for the next 13 days, and they can sign up until the ad drop period ends, which I believe is January 27th. There was going to be a lot to play out. So I know we're in a society that's all now. Just a little bit of patience. There's still a lot to play out. Stay plugged in, because we're going to have a ton of updates. They're going to go out and land definitely some game changers in the transfer portal. This was a Virginia Tech team that went 3-9. The staff is well aware of the deficiencies in the areas they're going to have to attack. Logan Decker, good question. Would you rather start the Penn State guy, Ethan Grunkmeyer, or Beau Pribula? I think that's a really tough question. I'm still kind of torn on this one, because a week ago, there were different perceptions, different hands working, and I still there's a world where they both come, and I think that is still very, very possible. But when you just look at it on paper, Grunkmeyer is very, very talented, highly rated out of the portal. Going to want to hit the field. 3 years of eligibility. Beau Pribula, 1 year rental, has 1 year left, has that relationship with Franklin, Danny O'Brien. He's obviously going to want to hit the field and make his last mark. Grunkmeyer probably, I believe, has a higher ceiling out of the two. Do you have that competition? And then if you're Beau Pribula, there's no spring portal to portal out, and then you spend your last year as a backup. Like I said, I want to preface, I still think there's a world where both guys end up at Virginia Tech. It's just maybe those dynamics get a little bit muddied here. But definitely we'll be watching that as it gets closer, because the quarterback position will wrap up here soon. I feel pretty confident about that. Yeah, Patrick Thompson. Good question, man. Thank you. I mean, like I said, I don't say it enough. Thank you for the people who are in here consistently commenting, subscribing, liking. It really means the world. Are you tracking any portal ads at linebacker? Also, any updates from Chambers, Copeland to return? Good question. Some linebackers. I'm not sure if I have any interior guys listed down. They will definitely probably go out and get some interior guys. Chris Jones, like I mentioned, from Fairfax, the former Georgia linebacker, more of an outside linebacker type. Obviously, you lost Caleb Woodson through the portal yesterday, so you lost a portal backer, Cameron Morgan, but he likely projects as an edge rusher as well. So, no, I can't think of any names there, but they definitely will target. I know people have tried to link TJ Bush with his connection with Overton. That'll be another one. I know the other Cal linebacker just entered. Haven't heard anything there early. But specifically for Noah Chambers, have heard very positive returns for Noah Chambers and returning to Virginia Tech. Another name that I feel very confident in Virginia Tech being able to retain ahead of the 2026 season. I know it's a crazy world where a freshman guy, there's a lot of indecision on decisions to stay, go. But another one I think Virginia Tech can feel pretty confident about being on the roster. Copeland, I touched on it earlier. I think there might be a little bit more to play out there with the NFL feedback, but I think Virginia Tech's put themselves in a really good spot there. Similar to Aiden Green, I think Copeland, Virginia Tech's done a really good job and made it a good deal. But the NFL, it's the men's league, and there's feedback there that can certainly change things. Taylor Allen Soccer 3509. What's the latest on Coach Morgan? And if he comes to Virginia Tech, are you hearing of any players that VT could get? Certainly, the latest is that sounds like the most smoke surrounding the vacant safeties coach, co-defensive coordinator position at Virginia Tech is Lamar Morgan. Very experienced there. Great recruiter. Some names I would instantly watch. Andre Clark from the high school ranks to get released. That would be one. Shamari Earls, former Thomasdale, Virginia guy. That would be one to watch. Kanoa Winston. I want to double check his name. Kanoa Winston or Watson. No, yeah. Kanoa Winston, Michigan safety would be another one to watch there early if it were to go that way. Just a couple names to watch if that were to go that way that I would definitely heavily monitor for Virginia Tech. Georgia Tech is targeting Bo Pribula as well. Yep, touched on that. Jay Grant, I'm glad you're feeling better. Yep, feeling better, but still can't shake whatever this is. Got Flex. I mean, you guys got some crazy usernames. We'll just call you Gmail. What's the vibe with current players and James Franklin? Do they seem all in and excited to make a run with the talent that James Franklin can bring in? Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the most excitement in Blacksburg, Virginia, especially emanating from the Merriman Center, as there's been in quite a while. Now, a new season brings new feelings and warm and fuzzies, but there's definitely a different vibe, a tighter ship. I mean, and also just a lot more emphasis. There's a lot more people in the building, the staff, the support staff. It's going to feel and operate like a different organization than it has in the past. So they are on a mission. James Franklin specifically has a very big chip on his shoulder, and it starts in the transfer portal because, like I said, there's no spring window anymore. So the roster you get set with here, once the ad drop period ends, is the 105 guys you're going to have going forward. So it's big. Upgrading the talent level is going to be really massive. But no, all the guys are bought in, it sounds like, for sure. Got Tad saying, who are our top targets for edge rusher and O-line? Couple edge rusher targets we touched on from A&M. Solomon Williams, visiting January 5th. Connection from Sean Spencer. Also A&M edge Rylan Kennedy has been linked. Cameron Morgan from Baylor. He's going to have some pretty big suitors. But that's another one at the edge rusher position. Trying to think about who else. Let me double check. And then along the offensive line, Ori Williams from LSU. Also on campus, who I think Virginia Tech's in a good spot with, Justin Bell, offensive lineman with 4 years of eligibility from Michigan State. And there will be some other names. I would look at Alex Birchmeyer coming from Penn State if they pursue their former top prospect in Virginia. another guy to definitely keep an eye on. Yeah, Flex, touch on this a little bit with the Penn State wide receivers, Exonor. Haven't heard much on Matthew Outen, actually. Obviously, Matthew Outen committed to Virginia Tech originally. We'll do some digging there in the coming days. It's been a very busy 48, 72, however many hours. Haven't been sleeping much, but do need to do some digging there on Matthew Outen. Patrick Thompson, very good question. I know you were hammering about the linebackers, and I'll definitely make sure to look into that for sure. But Amari Campbell hitting the portal from Penn State. I have not heard about him hitting the portal, but with traction to Virginia Tech, I don't see that coming to fruition with Campbell to Virginia Tech. If he goes to the portal, I doubt it will be to Virginia Tech, but they will be looking at the linebacker position. Got Taylor Rawl talking about Peyton Lewis, the Salem, Virginia running back that Virginia Tech haven't really looked at extensively. Andrew, I don't know if you're talking about Chris Jones from Fairfax, but no visit locked in yet, at least as of earlier this afternoon. But Virginia Tech will be one of those schools early in the mix. Joey Anderson talking about is Xavier Chaplin in the mix to come back to Virginia Tech. That is not one I foresee Virginia Tech pursuing in the second go-round in the transfer portal. Tanner Cease, is Virginia Tech going to be able to hang with some of these other schools in the NIL offers? A little ambiguous. Virginia Tech won't be able to hang with Texas Tech, Oregon, LSU, Miami. Those are sort of Indiana. Those are sort of the heaviest hitters right now in the transfer portal. Texas A&M, they're spending very big. Now in that, I don't know if you want to call it second tier. I mean, still Power 2 level schools that Virginia Tech will be able to compete with. They're going to be throwing around quite a bit of resources as they look to radically improve the talent roster heading into 2026. It's going to look a lot different than a cycle ago where you're seeing playing money ball to an extent. They're going to go out and target and acquire top talent. You're already seeing that, have a crystal ball in. And I know it's overlooked because it's a Penn State connection. The number one tight end in the transfer portal, I'd likely heavily expect Virginia Tech to land. Luke Reynolds, I mean, this is a former 5-star recruit. Like, they're going to go out and get top guys. Ethan Grunkmeyer, top 11 to 15 guy in the portal. I think Virginia Tech is very well with. They're going to go out and attack and go out and get some top talent and increase the competition in the room for sure. Pat Thompson, it just answered this throughout the show, but yeah, definitely some early smoke there. No official visit yet with Virginia Tech, but they have contacted his camp. Yep, Josh, the measurables on Ori Williams, 6'8" through 35, they're pretty insane. He's not a finished product by any means, but Matt Moore, very developmental offensive line coach. They're going to need a ton of bodies to bring into that room. So they're casting a wide net here early. Appreciate everyone jumping in here Saturday night. I know there's NFL on. I haven't hardly watched NFL this year, but got a ton of people in here live. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, share the show with a friend. We're just going to be throwing updates out as they come. The transfer portal is going to be so crazy. It's just going to sort of be random updates as we get them. So come hang out. We'll be doing them a lot here at 8:30 Monday, Wednesday, whenever there's breaking news. Going to be traveling here next week. We'll be doing it from crazy locations, but make sure to come hang out. If you have questions, try and answer them. And yeah, it's the best place to be. So subscribe. Better than average. We need some corners. Any word on Virginia Tech? Looking at corners, let me double check and see. Damier Minka from Shepherd is someone that is working on setting up a Virginia Tech visit. I know you hear Shepherd, Division II school, I believe, originally from Gainesville, Virginia, but man, this is a really highly rated prospect. Has garnered quite a bit of attention from other programs as well. So that's one to watch. Elsewhere at corner, Christian Harrison from Cincinnati could be another name to watch. But yeah, they'll definitely look at that. And it'll be interesting. Obviously, reported Anthony Midget from the Steelers will be coming in as the cornerbacks coach. How does that look? Obviously, the Steelers have a massive game tomorrow night for their playoff hopes, but also Virginia Tech's transfer portal and how they're recruiting, because obviously he's still spending his time in Pittsburgh right now, not in Blacksburg, Virginia. So that'll be interesting to watch as that plays out. Adam Newsom, do you think Virginia Tech will be involved with Andrew Olesh? I do not see Virginia Tech, at least here early, jumping in on Andrew Olesh. Obviously, very highly rated 4-star recruit, tight end from a year ago. Michigan was heavily linked to him coming out of high school. I don't see Virginia Tech being involved with him like I do with Luke Reynolds and Matt Henderson. Logan Decker, is this transfer class looking strong? I think this sort of ties back into my point a little bit ago. I know you're starting to see commitments roll out now. Phones are blowing up. There's a ton of notifications. I think a lot of really great groundwork has been laid behind the scenes. I know those returns haven't been made public yet. Hopefully, I've laid out some of the positive feelings here on the show tonight. But I think early on, I think Virginia Tech's done a really nice job. And with the staff that they were able to assemble there relatively quickly, when you fire a staff, you're obviously not recruiting. You don't have the same board. You're still trying to put things together. I think they've established a very, very solid board quickly on in the transfer portal and attacked at it pretty good in a pretty good manner. Kamari Brown, Elon sophomore, and 2026 signee Tyrell Grant's cousin looks like he'll be visiting Iowa. Side note, so Virginia Tech could get involved there. But yeah, Josh, I was offense this year with Gronowski, and they were much improved. I think they put up just like 35 or 40 points on Vanderbilt in the bowl game. And Warren Regier, like his offense is at Wake Forest. I know that's like the classic trope, and I saw a lot of those comments. He's been around a lot of really good college football, and he spent 1 year at Iowa this year, and it's probably been their best offensive season in the last decade. So I think that's an incredible hire for Virginia Tech to get him on staff and get that done. My niche business says, what about the ODU quarterback Colton Joseph? Do not expect Virginia Tech to pursue it this time. Could see Florida State in the mix. Florida State's in the mix for quite a few guys. They're hosting DJ Lagway tomorrow. Former UVA and former UNLV quarterback Anthony Calandria is linked to Florida State. Colton Joseph is linked to Florida State. I heard he might be linked to Wisconsin. I do not expect Virginia Tech to pursue. I've said that James Franklin and Ricky Ronnie, his former head coach, have a good relationship. So you get a really great personal eval there, and it does not sound like Virginia Tech is going to pursue this time. Hokie Man, what about Elliott Washington and A.J. Harris, transfer DBs from Penn State? Washington is visiting UVA. I have not heard Virginia Tech on Washington at this moment, and I don't foresee Virginia Tech getting involved on A.J. Harris. Something could change there, but here a couple of days in, have not heard much there surrounding those Penn State DBs. Branson Ray, I know it's early, but do you think anyone we're looking at is a lock? I would say Luke Reynolds, Daniel Jennings, obviously Matt Henderson, the three guys I put in crystal balls for I feel very confident about. And at the quarterback position, I feel like I could be pretty close to putting one in for Ethan Grunkmeyer. And I know that's changed, and I might get some blowback in the comments. Oh, you're heavy Bill Pabula, this and that. But it's a fluid dynamic, and I feel pretty confident at this moment for Virginia Tech sitting there. Gangsta Golf, Brody Adams, is he staying? I may have missed that. Yep, confirmed on the vtscoop.com message board. Brody Adams, the leader, the VHSL leader in receiving yards. Yep, say it for the people in the back. The VHSL leader in receiving yards. Brody Adams will be returning to Virginia Tech, former 4-star wide receiver. Have a great interview with him on the channel if you want to watch that. But he will be coming back. I know he had a really tough run of injury last year, but I know Doug Bowman's probably going to watch this clip and clip it and say, but he has the world for potential. And if Brody can stay healthy, it's going to factor massively into that wide receiver room. Joseph Kennedy, Benji Gosnell has one more year left. Pat Thompson, appreciate all the questions tonight from a lot of people. Make sure to subscribe. If you're watching the show and you're enjoying it, please share the show with a friend. Let's spread the network. Be a friend, tell a friend. Let's get the show out there. I mean, it helps me out a ton, makes the dream possible, changing my life in real time. It means the world, realistically. But getting back to the question, Travis Johnson, still a potential wide receiver add if released. No, he is locked in with Michigan, top 247 wide receiver from Chesapeake, Virginia, Oscar Smith. He is locked in with Michigan. He will remain up there in Ann Arbor under Kyle Whittingham. And another note on the coaching I forgot to mention in the show stack, because right until we clicked live, we were working the phones. Sean Quinn announced here later. This is a running trope between me and Doug Bowman on was he going to be retaining the off-the-field role. But no, Sean Quinn will go be the new defensive coordinator at Liberty, was the outside linebackers coach this year. Just an absolute all-class, stand-up, one of the funniest coaches. In his own right, but also one of the hardest working on the recruiting trail. You talk to different prospects, and especially in his region up there in the Northern Virginia region. I think about a Matthew Lamar. I think I've maybe done this anecdote before, but once he even committed to Penn State and Virginia Tech was really kind of out of it until James Franklin. I mean, Sean Quinn stayed consistent, even just not even looking to flip him, just genuinely concerned and interested about the player. Just an upstanding individual. I think will have a ton of success at Liberty. Has been incredibly great to me. I can't say enough. Just an all-around awesome person. Jackson Connell, great question here. Johnny Williams IV, former West Virginia offensive tackle. A cycle ago when Matt Moore came to Virginia Tech, was definitely a name to watch. Virginia Tech could definitely get involved here. Haven't heard much here early in the portal, but like I said, names can pop up, and I haven't tracked that one. So definitely one I'll have to get on here soon. But that would be a massive, massive get. Virginia Tech struggled heavily pass blocking last year, and he is rates very high in the pass blocking grade. Would be pretty much a plug and play at tackle. So would be a massive add. We'll double check on that, but good question. Adam Newsom, any other Penn State transfers to keep an eye on? At this point, I'm trying to rack my brain. Obviously, a ton of winning, and I think you will see quite a few guys from Penn State follow. King Mack is going to have a ton of suitors. I'm not so sure King Mack ends up at Virginia Tech. I think when it's all said and done, you'll see close to 10-ish guys from Penn State follow to Virginia Tech. So I think that's a ballpark. I'll have to go double check through names, but I wanted to come live here tonight and just sort of gather some of the thoughts and get the intel out there. But great question. Appreciate everyone riding it out tonight. Captain Harlock, Tony Rojas is returning to Penn State. He got quite a good NIL deal to return to State College and be retained up there. Ryan B, does Grunkmeyer fit the more explosive offensive style James Franklin alluded to? No, he's definitely not that dual threat guy. He's mobile, but I would not call him a dual threat. But he's shown the ability to layer throws, throw on time. Definitely some mechanics to work on, and that's kind of nitpicking. But when you cut the tape on all levels of the field, all sides of the field, and he absolutely throws the ball around the yard. But he also has decent. The interceptions, he let a couple get away, but it was early. But an accurate passer overall. Maybe a couple too many turnovers, but he throws the ball around. So I think that fits the explosive title for sure. Mike talking about Lamar Morgan linked to Virginia Tech. Yes. At this time, for that safeties position, would heavily watch Lamar Morgan, the Michigan coach, at Virginia Tech. CJ Jackson, surprise name. I would say that surprise name to monitor, Bryce Baker from UNC. If a Landon Clark. I was a little surprised to see the Elon quarterback going to visit Kentucky with a new offensive coordinator, Joe Sloan, Will Stein, their quarterback lineage. Sounds like he might visit LSU with Lane Kiffin. That could be a surprise. A Luke Kromenhoek. what other quarterback names? I think those are some names to watch outside of a Grunkemeyer and a Bo Pribula. Got some good questions here. That's a good question. I'm going to try and think out loud. Against a Golf 67, any prospects that haven't hit the portal that we have any insight about? Guys who have not hit the portal yet. I guess with this one, I'll go to Michigan specifically. Kanoa Winston, Shamar Earl, some of those guys in the Michigan DB room that have not officially entered yet. If Morgan were to go to Virginia Tech and that becomes official, which could happen relatively soon, I would expect those guys. So I think I would keep that name on. But good question. Mike talking about Brody is going to be in the mix. I guarantee it. Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty convicted in that as well. I know it sort of became a running trope on the board this year about, oh, he's coming back this week. But I think when Brody Adams is healthy, he's one of, if not the most talented wide receiver in that room. And Aiden Crean, and they'll bring in a ton of good guys. But, I mean, very, very talented wide receiver. Rashawn McCormick, no real news on Harry Dalton or Peyton Lewis. Do not expect Virginia Tech to get heavily involved with either of those transfers at this time. Good question here. Crown Trey 11. Wanted to touch on this a little bit. And once we go off live, we're going to have a ton of updates on vtscoop.com. The phone is ripping off the chain. I can only imagine what's going over on the message board. But make sure to subscribe here because we'll have all the updates throughout the week. We're going to be going live a ton. So that's the best place for live updates and live thoughts and analysis. But going back to the question of Cam Courtney, has the connection being from up there, Northern Virginia, transferring from Virginia. I could see them getting involved. Spoke with representatives yesterday and at the time had not heard from Virginia Tech, but could see Virginia Tech moving in there relatively soon. Charles Taylor, how does Miami's college football playoff run factor into the appeal of Virginia Tech and the ACC as a transfer destination? Great question. Very nuanced approach and definitely adds legitimacy to the league as a whole. I know there's the power too, and it's the SEC and the Big Ten. And yeah, the resources and those schools overall are overwhelming and more dominant. But it adds legitimacy to making the ACC look as that third conference ahead of the Big 12. And yeah, it adds legitimacy. And it's definitely something transfer prospects look at for sure. Hokie Crazy 8298 feels like they're pursuing players with a lot of years left. I touched on this a little bit. There's guys with lower years of eligibility that haven't really popped on the radar yet publicly. They will definitely get some guys who have seen more college football. It's very early in the process. Guys are all over the country right now on visits, so they're trying to schedule that out. But I would expect them to be pretty swift in getting guys who have seen also a lot of experience. Flex, did you expect more PSU transfers than what Virginia Tech is projected to get, or do you think James Franklin and staff were selective in who they wanted to bring from Penn State? Initially, I expected quite a few more from Penn State than what I would project now, but I think they will be slightly more selective than what they thought. They're going to cast a wider net. Sean Spencer coming from Texas A&M, potentially a safeties coach coming from a different university. I think they're going to cast a wider net. There's, 4,000 plus players in the transfer portal. There's a wide net. They have great connections to very, very talented players from Penn State, but I don't think they're going to be pigeonholed to just that. There will be, like I said, I feel like if I had to ballpark it, I would say probably close to 10 guys from Penn State follow when it's all said and done, maybe less, maybe more. But initially, that's probably less than I would have thought. Dale Kaiser, any news on the remodel of Merriman? Yeah, this was going around. This sounds more like enhancements this round, just quick modernization. I don't think I think when they submit plans for real larger scale modifications, that those will be a little bit more aggressive. I think this is just touch-ups before some of these official visits and such. Andrew, will Franklin hire a co-DC? Yeah, I think potentially that safeties coach he hires will get that co-defensive coordinator tag. And right now it's been linked to Lamar Morgan coming from Michigan. Any hope for Chaz Coleman to visit Virginia Tech? I do not see Virginia Tech getting a visit from Chaz Coleman coming from Penn State. James Madison Corner, Justin Eaglin is visiting Rutgers. That was one Virginia Tech might be linked to, but that's some news coming in live now. Like I said, we're going to be working the phones. There's going to be a ton of updates. It's been a crazy day, so try to keep track of it all for everyone. Hopefully there's some good updates. Subscribe if you've enjoyed. Get a couple more questions and we'll get out of here. Got Ate JY11171. What do you think a realistic goal is for next year's season? I know the hypotheticals, and it is what it is, but I mean, look at what Jake Dickert did at Wake Forest this year. I mean, that's incredible. Coach of the year type performance. Manny Diaz being able to flip Duke extremely quickly. I think you realistically, like, it's tough, and Signetti's really changed the landscape and how you have to be able to flip a program like that. But I think you need to see a significant improvement. 8-9 wins in this day and age with the resources, the ACC schedule being favorable, the non-con schedule being favorable. I think that's not a crazy projection. Now, I know you're coming from a 3-9 team, but like I said, in a world where I'm getting comments about why is the portal not moving quickly, it's a win now world, for better or for worse. There's a lot of money going into this. So I think you're going to have to see a pretty massive improvement, 8 to 9 wins for sure, upwards of that. Run Ruby, have you heard anything about where Pop will land? Early on, heard some about Buffalo, UMass, JMU maybe. Could see. There's another school. Someone said UConn. I don't think UConn will be in the mix, but some of those other schools, just early. It's so early, but we'll see where that goes. Mike, appreciate it, man. Thank you. It means the world. Token Hokie, any word on Troy Everett, the offensive lineman from App State in Oklahoma? Do not expect Virginia Tech to pursue Troy Everett this cycle. Interior guy, and they're going to be rolling without Tuner. Also had a couple injuries. And I just, based on intel, do not expect Virginia Tech to pursue Everett at this time. Birchmeyer's interesting. Haven't seen a public offer go out yet. That was one I expected Virginia Tech to pursue and still would. So would keep an eye on him from Penn State. Hokie Crazy, does Isaiah Pena still sign with Virginia Tech with all these tight ends? That'll be interesting. I know that signing window in February is going to open up. I'm not sure. Like, if he doesn't sign with Virginia Tech, I'm not sure he's going to have another school to sign with. But that room is going to be full for sure. And, you know, if you bring in Andre Clark, that's another body to the 26th class that you weren't exactly accounting for. So I know the numbers always work out, but that will be one to watch in that later high school signing window. Andrew, are those Michigan guys seriously thinking about leaving or just a pipe dream? No, I mean, there's real connection with some of those guys. Denzel Jones, the last day to technically sign is Virginia Tech's last day of ad drop. I can double check it right now. For Virginia Tech specifically, it obviously varies across the country for each school in their academic calendar. So Virginia Tech's last day to add classes is January 26th. So by January 26th, you will have an idea of exactly what Virginia Tech's roster will look like for the 2026 season. Got Bowline Holmes saying, do you think the teams that are playing in the college football playoff are at a disadvantage during the portal period? Without a doubt. I mean, these teams are 120 minutes away from winning a national championship, and they're expected to divert the same time, attention, and resources to schools that finished their season 2 weeks ago. It is extremely difficult for these staffs to be split in recruiting, hosting visitors, working the phones, and also game planning to go win a national championship. I mean, so much has been made of the calendar, and I know a lot of the product of it is from the coaches themselves, but it just seems so backwards. It seems so backwards that what you're competing to build for is being taken away from having to build for the next year. And it's like you're still in it for the ultimate goal this year. So that's why you need a really great staff, and these support staffs are getting so big. Auburn cornerback just committed to Ole Miss. That's interesting. Godfrey, thank you, Kolby. How are we looking at quarterback Grunkemeyer? I think Virginia Tech's in a really good spot with Ethan Grunkemeyer from Penn State at the moment. Pat Thompson with the potential quarterbacks. How is the current quarterbacks looking? You got AJ Baran likely on the roster. Not sure if he sticks it out at quarterback this cycle. Could see him potentially switch positions. You have Keldon Ryan out of DeSoto in Texas. Probably sticks it out, but we'll see. I mean, they're going to bring in a ton of competition. So they feel the need to definitely go supplant with a couple guys from the portal. So, yeah. Dylan, any insights on Quinn leaving, why that might have happened? It's a massive promotion. It's a great opportunity to go to Liberty, go be the defensive coordinator, and very well deserved. So that's pretty much all to it. I mean, it's just a promotion. Adam, any running back going to hit the portal? Jeremiah Coney hit the portal. Braden Bennett hit the portal. Potentially one more, but we'll see. Miles Johnson, how's Virginia Tech at kicker? They're still pretty locked in at kicker with John Love returning and Will Love, his brother. But punter is definitely a position they're going to look in the portal for. VSEM, Jace, SAS 323. Are Grunkemeyer and Prbula higher on Virginia Tech's preferred quarterback list than Clark and Baker? Without a doubt, yes. Adam VT said, is there a need to find a punter in the portal? Yes, just touch on that. But without a doubt, there's a name I'm tracking. Trying to back channel, but could be shut down relatively soon. But yes, without a doubt. Mark Best talking about Drew Messmaker following Eric Morris from North Texas to Oklahoma State. That's a very exciting ad, obviously following his play caller. But yeah, like I said, these quarterback dominoes are going to move pretty quickly. Quentin Gunn, you hearing anything about Caleb Spencer? I feel like Virginia Tech is in a good position to retain Caleb Spencer at linebacker as well. Pat Thompson, a name that hasn't been talked about a ton thus far that you have your eye on. Good question. Hasn't been talked about a ton. Maybe Chris Jones. I know it hasn't been talked about a ton, but I mean, perception-wise, at the linebacker position, as you've highlighted, former top 125, 130 guy from Virginia a couple years ago, if he comes in and fills out that role, that star position in Brent Pry's defense, I think that could be pretty big. Mike, think they take Matt Henderson and Luke Reynolds at tight end? Yes. Bolin Holmes, the Clemson DB that just entered the portal, that went like right before I went live. I haven't heard anything linking that at this point, though. VT 15 Hokies transfers, yeah, they can't sign on campus, so they have to go on off campus to sign officially. So some of these announcements are just slightly delayed from that. Flex Runner, once the dust settles with the transfer portal, will you give us your projected depth chart pre-spring game? Dude, this is Kolby's Corner, man. We're going to have a ton of content to fill in the months of January, February, and March. We will certainly get into projected depth charts and all that. So make sure to subscribe because it's busy right now. It's going to stay busy, and we're going to have a ton of content. Wrapping it up, couple final questions. Quentin Gunn, Malachi Goodman from Penn State. Do not expect Virginia Tech to make a significant move there, but obviously a very highly touted player. Hokie man, yeah, I mean, obviously Terry Smith was retained for a pretty penny and for a good deal to keep that roster relatively intact going into next year. CJ Jackson, we do a pretty good job over there on vtscoop.com that keeps up with a lot of these names. So I would recommend getting over there. We have a pinned tracker over there on vtscoop.com. Tyler Dixon, any more word on what game is getting canceled? It sounds like it will be the JMU contest that will be canceled next year. Sean, this is interesting. I would definitely expect a handful more. We'll see how the numbers shake out, but would expect a handful more to probably trickle out. Also, Sean, is there a possibility that Virginia Tech could add kids after the spring? Lots of kids won't have homes, and schools may not get enough of what they want in the portal before spring. I guess there could be a workaround to see that. I think most teams will likely try and get that roster fully intact pretty much once this portal ends, save the high school recruiting period. But you could definitely see a world where there's a lot of floating guys and you need to make a quick ad here or there. So that's definitely something I could see happening. Is Pry advising James Franklin on the defensive staff, or does this seem like a James Franklin decision? I think Franklin definitely has final say on everything, but he trusts Brent Pry pretty extensively. So there's a lot of collaboration there, but definitely James Franklin at the head of it. Bowling, great show tonight. Looking forward to riding the roller coaster. With that, I know it was a lot. I wrote down like a couple notes right before we went live and was like, let's just rip it because there's just so many updates we had to get to. So appreciate everyone sticking it out. I had a ton of viewers here on Saturday night. I hope everyone has a great weekend. VTscoop.com. Follow on the socials if you're interested in just all the latest updates for the transfer portal movement. We've been trying to cover it as extensively as we can. It's been a ton, but appreciate everyone sticking it out with us. So make sure to subscribe to the channel again. I'm sticking it out here. We've gone over an hour. We'll go as long as we can because the support you guys have given me is absolutely insane. We will be going live a ton anytime there's breaking news. Monday night, I'm not sure. I will be traveling, so I'm not sure about Monday night. Tomorrow, if there's breaking news, we'll be going live. And then throughout the week, even whilst I'm traveling, we'll be going live and when I'm back. So make sure to subscribe to the socials to stay up to date on that. Share the show with a friend if you enjoy it. If you're not subscribed, please check. 60% of everyone watching this is not subscribed. It helps me out a ton. The retention, everyone watching the video, it's just absolutely so amazing. So thank you guys. Hang on for the ride. It's going to be a crazy roller coaster. So have a great rest of your weekend. We will talk soon. Bring the questions, bring the comments. It's been a ton of fun. But have a great rest of your Saturday night. Be safe. Enjoy some football tomorrow. Enjoy some college football next weekend. Peace out. God bless.